Ironman Chattanooga 2024 race recap. Today, I'm going to talk all about my experience at Ironman Chattanooga 2024. I'm going to talk about my trip down to Chattanooga, the challenges that came up, the actual race day, my nutrition plan, my execution, the challenges in race day, and all about my finish and how I'm feeling now. Now, this was certainly a weekend that was riddled with challenges from the beginning. Now, I decided to drive down to Chattanooga to make it easiest for me. I didn't feel like flying with the bike. I don't mind driving too much, so I made the road trip from New York State to Chattanooga, Tennessee, about a 13-hour drive. Now, my first challenge occurred on the drive down to Chattanooga. I'm driving down. I'm about 6 hours into the drive. So it's about 7 o'clock now, getting towards nighttime. And the first thing that came up was I got a notification on my phone that the swim portion of the Ironman had been canceled. To say I was disappointed would be an understatement, probably. I was really excited to do all three disciplines, and I really wanted to do the swim portion. I felt it was going to be incomplete if I didn't do one of the three disciplines. So frustration, a little bit of anger, a lot of emotions came up, and I allowed them to be. It can be frustrating, and it's okay to be frustrated. I allowed myself for that. I sat in that and I was quiet in the car for a little bit and I was contemplating. Now, not 30 minutes to an hour after finding out the swim's canceled, I'm still dealing with some emotions in that. My car starts to act weird. I'm in Virginia and my transmission is like overheating and I'm having transmission problems. So I'm like, damn, all right. So I decide to turn around. I'm 6 hours away, but you know what? I'm gonna go get my other car, be safe, and then I'll come back down to my other car. I'll still be here by Friday. We'll be good. So I turn back around and then I drive for an hour and the car's doing really well. I'm taking it really easy and things are going well. So I'm like, okay, maybe I could just make this trip then. I'm all the way down here. Let me just turn around again. I turn around again, and all of a sudden, after another hour of driving, my battery light comes on and I lose all power in the car. I pull over the side of the road. I have no battery. I have no battery power. Obviously, the alternator had went. The battery was dead, and I'm on the side of a highway in a random town in Virginia. No lights, no blinkers, no hazards. Stranded. Luckily, I have AAA. I called AAA. They were there within an hour. I got a free tow to a local Firestone. It was only like 15 minutes away, and I was able to. I think I dropped the car off at like 12:30 at night. I walked to the local. They had a local hotel, and I got a room at the hotel, which ended up being great. I got to go to the hotel, get a good. I was planning on driving through. I got a good night's sleep. I went on Facebook, which was actually very helpful. Other people were talking about the swim being canceled. There was a lot of people that were upset, were dealing with a lot of things. And I was actually able to gain some really beautiful insights from people who have a lot more experience in Ironman and people that were able to share some beautiful perspective about, hey, listen, we come and we do the race that we were given. The swim portion is like 1.2 or 1.5% of the overall distance. Like you're still doing an incredible big long race. You're still an Ironman. You still did all of that training. You can't take away all the training you did. Like you did so much to get to this point. You're an Ironman. You're going to cross that finish line as an Ironman. And, I believe that, but there's obviously, I still wanted to do that swim and there's something unresolved there, but it was helpful to see these perspectives from people who have been there and people who could share that. So it ended up being a benefit to be able to relax for the night, to calm my mind a bit and to really settle down about that swim being canceled. Next morning, I walked to Firestone bright and early when they opened, let them know I dropped the car off. It was the alternator and battery. I let them know, hey, I got a race on Sunday. I got to get the heck out of here. And they had my car fixed in like 3 hours. I was on the road again by 11 and, only added not so much to my trip. I was supposed to get there at like 7 a.m. I got there at like 5 p.m. So all in all, car breaking down, not terrible. And the transmission problem was directly due to the alternator and battery because those were dying. The transmission, I won't get into a car story here, but all that to say, the car is good. It made it good. It made it back good. So first set of challenges are away. I rented a cabin in Georgia right on the line. It was like 15 minutes away from where the venue was. It was a small little beautiful cabin on Airbnb. It was literally called Cabin in the Woods. So I got there, I unpacked everything. My brother actually came in that night. He flew in and then he Ubered over to the hotel, got to hang out with him, talk about race day and just kind of hang out. Next day is Saturday before race day. Obviously, I didn't make it to register on Friday. So Saturday was about going down to Athletes Village, they call it. Athletes Village is where the transition area is. They have a tent where they sell things, registration. They have different vendors. It's a really cool experience. They have music going. All the athletes are there. There's pro athletes there. So Athlete Village, always a fun experience. Went in, got registered, got my bib. So, you register, you get your swim cap, which we obviously didn't need for this year. You get your bib, you get your race bags, you get everything you need for race day. And then you get your fancy backpack. You always get like a triathlon backpack with these. They're really, really nice, and they're supportive in training. You could do wet clothes and everything you need right in one easy to carry bag. So we get all that, spent some time, got some shirts, got some gear. I always get a mug. I like to get a mug from all of the events that I do. So I got my Ironman Chattanooga mug to go on my mug mantle that I have that I'm continuing to build, and then just enjoyed the day down there. My parents were coming in that evening, so we got all the check-in done. We stayed around for the opening ceremony they had, and then I went and picked up my parents from the airport, and then we went to dinner. We got them into their hotel. They were staying at a hotel right nearby. And then we went to dinner for the final meal. And that was nice, going to dinner, talking about the plan for tomorrow, talking about mindset. I didn't have a huge meal. I tried to keep it nice and light and easy, nothing new. As I talked about, nothing new on race day, and just really starting to focus in. And we had dinner pretty early, about 6 o'clock, and they went out and they enjoyed the rest of the night. I went back to the cabin about 7 o'clock and really just started to lock in. I have checklists for everything. I have a packing checklist for packing to go to Chattanooga. I have a packing list for the things to pack for race day. I have a list for my morning routine. I have a list for everything. So the night before is going over the lists, laying everything out, checking everything off to make sure nothing is missed on race day. I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to think about it. If it's on the list, it needs to be there. And if it's checked off, it's there, right? I use lists to not need as much mental energy so I could just focus on relaxing. And that night before, I did some visioning of I envisioned myself literally going through the race, visioning the paces I wanted to hit, how I wanted to feel, my mindset going in. I really just spent that time to center, feel the nerves, because then the nerves started to come in. About 24 hours is the first time I started to feel these nerves of oh shit, this is happening tomorrow. But I like to say that nerves are not inherently good or bad. Nerves are nerves, and we can use them to our advantage, or they can inhibit us. So that's why I intentionally have practices that acknowledge the nerves, and then we use them to our advantage. It's a reminder to me that nerves are a reminder of excitement. They are a reminder that this is important to me, and that's good. It's good that that's there. It's good that it's important, and I'm glad to have them. And let's use them. Let's not think about worst case scenario. Let's think about best case scenario and hitting the times and paces that we want to hit. To that point, so we didn't have the swim. And so my new goal for the finish of the day, as at an amazing day, I thought if everything went perfectly and I really nailed things, I could do 10 hours. I wanted a sub 6 hour bike. I wanted a sub 4 hour run. And, I wanted to hit the 10 hour mark. I thought that would be a phenomenal day, especially for my first Ironman. So that was my goals. It was lofty. And I'll stick on that point of goals. When I go into race day, I have a multitude of goals. I have low-level goals all the way up towards high-level goals, reach goals, or I call them stretch goals. So low-level goals are, I want to make it to the start line healthy. I want to get through training and get to the start line. That's a win. Next goal is I want to finish the race. So if I just show up and finish, 2 goals are knocked off. It's a win, it's a great day, and I'm happy. Now, the next goal was the 6-hour bike ride. If I could hit that, awesome. Another goal knocked off, and that's a stretch for me. Based upon my training, I knew that was attainable, but a stretch. And then finally, sub 4-hour marathon. That was going to be breaking my personal best marathon by about 30 minutes. Again, attainable, but it's going to take some work. It was a stretch. And then that sub 10 hours. So I had regular goals that were more easily attainable, but still wins. And then stretch goals of hey, best case scenario, this would be a killer day and we'd be really excited and we're going to build upon that. So that's how I structure my goals on race day. I like to have a multitude of them because if I don't have the stretch goals, then I lack the inherent capacity sometimes to push myself to that extra level. So having those goals in mind helps me to push further, to give me a reason to push extra hard, because I don't want to just finish. I always want to finish in the fastest possible time for myself, for my current fitness level, current training, and where I'm at, right? Comparing myself to me, not necessarily the field, and then those are other goals that we could have too, like a top 10 finish. But there's a lot more variability because you don't know who's showing up a race day, what their race times are. So you can have that goal, but realize that's much more out of your hands rather than goals that are inherent to you. So that's how I think about and I approach goals for race day. Now, race day comes, again, everything's packed up. I wake up in the morning. First thing I do is visualization and breath work. The nerves are there. So I just sat on the porch. I closed my eyes. I did some deep intentional breathing. Again, I visualized excitement. I visualized my pacing. I visualized the race. And again, this is a practice that has a lot of good science and data behind it. And people performing at the highest levels talk about this, talk about centering. They talk about visualization techniques. This is a very real thing that can feel or seem woo-woo, but this is very real and creates tangible results and helps you to really anchor in the nerves you're going to feel. So again, get up, breath work, visualization. I have my breakfast. All of my carb loading is really done in the week before. I do a process called carbohydrate supercompensation. So the 7 days out from race day, I have no carbohydrates, little to no carbohydrates. And then 3 days leading up to race day, I have a higher intake. So probably between 300 to 500 grams leading up to the night before, tapering in the night before. And then the morning of, like, I've already filled up my glucose and glycogen stores. So that morning of is just like one final little meal, so I don't go in with a full stomach. And this process of glycogen supercompensation has been shown to increase the body stores of glucose and glycogen by about 20 to 25%. So if you hold 2,000 calories of carbohydrates, you can hold about 2,500 calories of carbohydrates. It doesn't maybe sound like a lot, but that can help you get further. It can push back the amount of time until you feel fatigue and cause you to have to take in less nutrition overall, which is just going to help your gut because, taking in nutrition the whole time, GI issues are a real thing. So I like to leverage as much of my biology as I can. And that's always worked really great for me. So getting down to race day, we had a time trial start and a late start at that. These races usually start at like 6 a.m., 5 a.m., transitions opening. But with no swim, we had an 8:40 start. The pros started at 8 a.m. and then age groupers, the non-pros, was starting at about 8:40. And essentially it was 2 athletes every 30 seconds. So 2 athletes would be at the start line. They do a buzzer, they go, and the next 2 athletes buzzer and go. This is what they call a time trial start. Because I did fundraising for the Ironman Foundation, I had a really low bib number, 122. So I was able to be at the front of the pack, which was really nice. So I got down there on race day. My parents had come down. Morning of, my routine is some light stretching just to activate muscles. And really in the 30 minutes before the race, I have a process of like warrior mode, I call it. I love this opportunity on race day. Race days are really the only times I do this. I do this in training a bit, but I put in my headphones, I put in motivational speakers, Jocko Willink and David Goggins, and there's Spotify playlists that have motivational speakers talking, and it has like really big, impactful music behind it. And they're saying really inspiring things about drive and motivation and pushing. And I listen to this and I remind myself of like what greatness I have inside of me. And I literally feel like I connect with an alter ego of myself, this warrior version of myself. I tend to be very easygoing and very calm and very peaceful on my day to day, and I enjoy that. But it's so fun to have race day where I can tap into this warrior and this fighter and this energy that's just ready to just like go to war with the race. And this is the process I like to do. Headphones in. I don't really talk to people. My face changes. My whole demeanor is just very like I just tune in and get ready to put out as best as I possibly can. I do talk to some other people. I had some conversations, the guy next to me, because there's no headphones for the race. So while I was getting ready to go out, headphones are down. There's a guy from Canada next to me. We were chit-chatting and I was talking to some people. And I had about maybe a 5-minute wait. And then boom, we were off on the bike ride. And it was all highway. It was a new bike course. This is another Curveball this year, the bike course didn't get approved of the route through Georgia. So we had an all new course that was all highway. And it was in the fast lane of the highway. They had the fast lane closed off, and we did, I think, 30 miles down, 30 back. It was 3 or maybe 20. It was 3 loops of this section of highway, and it was rainy the whole time. It was a wet one. There was some immense downhills. There was some pretty steep and long lasting uphills, but it was a great race. It was a fast course, and I had in mind I wanted to be around 18 and 19 miles an hour. That was really through my training, I thought that's what I could sustain and still have enough for the run, and that's where I felt comfortable at. I did not have a power meter. That being said, I spent a lot of time this year understanding an internal gauge of the power I was putting out based upon my speed, my RPMs I was feeling, and fatigue levels, and like what I felt in my muscles. I got a new bike this year, did not get a power meter. It was mid-season. That actually worked really well for me. I just really tuned into like, hey, how are we feeling? Are we at that upper threshold of like, if we keep putting out at this, we're going to go to failure, or we're not going to have anything left for the run? So a lot of intuition on the bike. Coming out the first 10 miles, I was at like 25 miles an hour. And I'm like, okay, well, we're 5 miles an hour above. We're feeling great. We're not hyper fatigued. Let's keep going. And again, another 10 miles, 25 miles an hour. Now, at this point, I felt something weird in my seat. My seat had leaned all the way down forwards. And I was like, what is going on? So I guess with the rain and my seat wasn't super tight, the seat was loose and it kept coming down. So for a little while I rode like that. And then eventually I was like, this is so uncomfortable. My hamstrings were killing me. So I scooched back in the seat and I would like bump my butt into the seat until it like came back up, and it would last for like 20 minutes and come back down. So that was one challenge I had throughout the duration of the race, was my seat kept coming down and I'd have to like slam my ass into it and flatten it out, but ended up not being a huge deal. I was feeling great. And my strategy on the bike was like, I needed to nail the downhills. I knew my uphills, if anything, were my Achilles heel. I definitely struggle at ascending. I know I get passed a lot on uphills. So I was like, if we're going to have a great split, we need to really dig in on the downhills. And every time we had a huge downhill, I really pushed hard, because I noticed on downhills, if I put a lot of extra effort in, I don't feel a lot of extra fatigue, but I get a lot of extra speed. On the uphills, if I put a lot of extra effort in, I don't get a lot of extra speed and I get a lot of extra fatigue. So I might as well take it where it's easier to get. There was fear. It was wet. The roads were wet. There was tractor trailers going by on the right-hand side. There were people that crashed, that got, one person, his bike got ran over by a car. Like, that was a real threat during this race. And I just remember thinking on the downhills, to get to get you full into my mind, the fear would come up, and I just said to myself internally, lean the fuck in. That was just what came up, and I said it, and I just got as much speed as I could. I stayed in aero, I stayed away from the cones, and I got as much speed on those downhills. And every downhill was the same thing. A little bit of fear where, I tapped out at 39 miles an hour, 38.5 or something like that. I was cooking. And, all I have to say, like, I didn't want to crash, but I knew I could sustain. I knew I could be safe in the manner of doing it. So, parts of me are like, whoa, like, let's back off. I'm like, lean the fuck in. Like, this is our plan. We need to lean the fuck in. And that's what I did. So sorry for the language, but that was my mantra. And that's what I used to really push on that bike, not let off, and get as much time as I could to compensate for those hills that were challenging. As far as nutrition on the bike, on the course, I think it was like every 10 miles or so, they have tents, they have nutrition, they have water, they have Gatorade. And then halfway through the race, you can have a bike personal need. So you can pack a bag. They have all the bags on the highway, and you can pack whatever you want. Maybe some people put peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, or all, different nutritions. But the way I packed it was, just like in training, like all my nutrition was on the bike already for what I needed. So I had 3 water bottles. Each water bottle had 2 hours of nutrition. So I make a mixture that has 60 grams of glucose, 30 grams of fructose, 10 grams of MCT, medium chain triglycerides, which is a little bit of fats, and electrolytes. So essentially every 2 hours, I finish a water bottle. Well, I do half the water bottle every hour in increments, not just all in one shot. So I had my full nutrition on the bike for what I needed. And then I have hydration. I have a water bladder in in my frame of my bike. So that tube comes up, and then I have what's called a torpedo in between my handlebars. So that's another water source that I have in between my handlebars. So water up front, all the nutrition I need. I just need to stop quickly. And it's not a stop you like, it's like a rolling. They just hand you the water bottle, you chuck any garbage, they pick it up. It's wild. It's like a pit stop at a NASCAR race, right? Like you're just zipping in and out. But that saved me a lot of time. I didn't need to stop for personal needs bag. I didn't need to stop for anything. I had everything with me, and it worked out really well. I didn't need any bathroom breaks. I didn't have to pee or do the number two. Like everything was really good. And body was feeling really phenomenal. Getting into the halfway point, 56 miles in, I was definitely feeling it in my hamstrings. Typically, my quads would burn more on these races or, in trainings, but my hamstrings were really feeling it. And something that was working really well for me to alleviate this was I was standing on the uphills. Now, it's not to say I was like standing and like pushing and like grinding up the uphills. At these slower pace uphills, I found I could stand on a certain gear, alleviate the pain off my hamstrings, use my body weight to use my quads, and then I would lift my chest up and take big breaths of air. So I was able to clear a lot because the breath is what clears the waste from the metabolism, right? So we're burning carbs and fats, and we have byproducts of that. We need to get the carbons out, right? CO2, carbon dioxide, right? So the more we could get air in with big breaths, we can bring more carbon out. We're releasing more of the byproducts, and we're going to recover faster. So this was my tactic, to stand on these uphills, get a lot of oxygen in, and then those downhills, we're back in that arrow. We're getting as much speed as we can. That was my strategy going into that, and it worked out really, really well. My pace did begin to decline. I dropped down to about 23 miles, 22 miles an hour, getting into miles 70, 80, and then that final 20-mile stretch or so, I remember saying like, hey, because I said this throughout, I'm like, we got a marathon to run. We're feeling great. We're pushing. We have a marathon to run. But again, I tuned in over the season to these signals because I would train at these certain intensities where I would push into these upper thresholds and feel what it was like to push too hard and then not have energy for a run. So I knew certain signals that the body gives me that I can feel into to say, hey, you're pushing too hard. So I understood those points, and I was very careful to not go above them. But the last 20 miles or so, I was like, hey, listen, like we've nailed a great bike. I knew my split was much faster than I was anticipating. I was feeling great. So I was like, let's leave some leg for it. I think I came down to like averaging like 19 and 18 miles an hour as I continued to decline in that speed. And I ended up overall averaging 20 miles an hour. I was hoping for 18 and a half. I got an extra mile to mile and a half quicker. I ended up finishing the bike. I think it was about 5 hours and 30 minutes, or 5:25. I think I finished in 5:23. So we finished the bike. When you get to the end of the bike course, you dismount, and then there's a person that takes your bike for you. That was really nice. So you get off, they take your bike, they go put it back on the bike rack, and then you go and grab your run gear bag. All of the bags are lined up. You grab your number, and then you run to the gear changing tent. So go into the tent, you take your running shoes off, your helmet off, all the bike stuff, and then you put that in the bag. Put my running shoes on. I have a running belt. I had a sweatband that I was going to wear, that I was wearing, and it was off on the run. All in all, that transition took me about 3.5 minutes. I wasn't super rushing. I wanted a quick transition, but I also wanted to like, hey, we were just biking for 5.5 hours. Let's take a second to just chill for a second. And I remember at the end of the bike thinking, I can't wait to run. Like, oh my God, I'm ready for this bike to be over. You're in the same position, right? Same muscles are getting used. I'm like, I can't wait for this run. Something that I need to remind myself during the run, I promise you. So 3.5 minute transition, get out there. I see my family right away. I get out of transition. I get to see them. It's always a pleasure. The bike route was on the highway. There were fans out there, but I didn't get to see my family. And let me tell you something. If you've never done one of these races, seeing your family and friends out there supporting you it's like nutrition. It's like nutrition for the soul. I swear to God. So seeing them was absolutely beautiful. It is great. And my marathon wanted to be at 4 hours, 9:15 pace. And I remember telling myself I didn't want to come out faster than 9 minutes a mile. That was like a spot I had in my head. Don't come out faster than that. Let's get our legs under us. Let's get through the first couple of miles. So I get out, and real quickly, that belt I was wearing, same thing. I had 2 bottles. Each bottle was 2 hours of nutrition. So my plan was to get nothing from, they had an aid station every mile. So they have water, they have pretzels, they have soda, they have gel packs, they have electrolytes, they have all the things that you would need. But I had all of that in my bottles, and I was just taking water. And I remember saying, I'm going to take water every station because it's easier to get dehydrated. And I wanted to make sure I was hydrated for this run, even though I've been getting dumped on with water all day long. First mile was actually a decent bit of an uphill into a flat. And I was at like 8:30 a mile. My legs were feeling really good. My body was feeling good. I did have a weird pain on my right side. I have a little bit of an imbalance on my right side. I get some pains on the outside of my foot. I'm still working through and figuring that out. So I did have some pain in the first 2 to 3 miles. But I remind myself, hey, like we're going to go through phases and just like let this sink in. And that was one of my race plans, was for mindset, like whatever you're going through, breathe through it and remember it's a phase. So something might really be painful or hurt, or like you're going to go through these pain caves, but just remember like there's a light at that end of that tunnel. Like you're going to go through it, just make it through it. Got through the first 3 miles, feeling great, taking a lot of water. I started to have to pee a lot. I think I did like 4 miles straight where I had to stop at a urinal. They have urinals at each one. So I definitely was like, okay, stop drinking water. You are overhydrated. Your pee is clear. You're clearly hydrated, because I was taking in a lot of water on the bike. Plus all my nutrition is in water, in big water bottles. So I was like, all right, you can back off. I'm tired of peeing this whole time. So, so we're going down, and honestly, the first 8 miles felt amazing. I was faster than I anticipated pace. I was holding 8:45 to 9 minutes. I was feeling great. Saw the family at like mile 6. I'm like, things are great. Pace is great. I feel great. Like I had some soreness and things coming up, but I was feeling overall optimistic about the run. Still rainy, and about 10 miles as we came up, there was a section, we went over a bridge, and there's a section called the Barton Hill. It was the Barton Road, and it's this huge ascending, looking from the bottom, it is just this huge monster hill. So, first time doing that, pretty good. I didn't have to walk it, and there was a couple of hills in that section. So it's this whole section that goes around like a golf course. It's like 2 to 3 miles, right at midway point. And so we go through that section, and get through it. Didn't drop pace too bad. I'm still in a great pace. I'm still feeling good, but now real fatigue is setting in. My hip flexors are on fire, and that's really, my heart rate throughout all this was fantastic. I was at a much lower heart rate than I knew I could have sustained. But at this point, I'm midway through, and now I'm feeling it. The rain started to come down harder. I know my nutrition's good. My stomach's doing good. I had a little bit of GI stuff going on. I backed off the amount I was taking. If I feel GI issues, it means I have too much. Because if we take in too much nutrition and the body can't process it and we're not using it, then we're going to have GI issues, stomach cramps, and it's going to come out one of the two ends. And I didn't want that. So I know my nutrition was dialed in. I knew I was hydrated, but I was going through some pains in my body. Man, my hip flexors, my feet, and really my quads were feeling the most. Hip flexors really was what got me the most on that run. The big thing for me is mile to mile. I didn't look at it like a 26-mile run. It was 1 mile run 26 times. This is a great tactic. This is a tactic that they looked at the Navy SEALs and like some of their fundamentals of how they tackle big challenges or really challenging things. And it's by focusing on the granular, the thing next, right? So don't think that you have 13 miles left. You got 1 more mile, and then 1 more mile, and then 1 more mile. And there's an aid station every mile. So, okay, just make it to the next aid station. And then you can laser focus on that, get to that point, and then make it to the next one. And this was really helpful. This really helped me get through some challenging experiences. And then I was into mile like 16, and I will tell you, I was in the pain cave. I was hurting. I was thinking I had to dig deep into, David Goggins calls it the cookie jar, thinking about all the great things I've accomplished, all the work I put in, thinking of my family, friends, everyone that donated to the foundation. Like I had to pull through in the depths of my soul, like anything I could to remind myself that I have the power to do this, that I have people supporting me, I have people relying on me, I have people that like are watching me and using that as inspiration moving forward. And I was digging deep for a while because let me tell you, every single step was just getting just more painful, more challenging. And I was there, but I wasn't quite there. And that middle portion, 15, 18, I can easily say was the hardest portion of running I've ever done in my life. I was around, some bathroom break miles were like at like 10 minutes. So I had like 10 to 10, 15-minute miles, but really 9:40 to 10 minutes was really where I was at. So I was dropped about a minute per mile of pace. So I definitely fell off. I will say I never had to walk. I never did any walking, which I'm not against. Listen, a run walk. I mean, there's people that set world records and do run walk. So I'm not here to downplay or say that run walk is not a thing. It's something that I wanted to avoid and I was able to avoid and I was happy moving with. My breaks were those bathroom breaks. So there was break time for my legs. I just utilized my bathroom time as that time and then got back into it. But mile 15 to 18, mentally and physically, the most challenging stretch of run I've ever had, really to 20, because then we had to do the hill again. Going up the hill, pouring rain this time, back the backside. And I'll never forget, we're going up the final hill of the race. We get over the last one, then we got like 2 miles left, and honestly, everything faded away. Mostly all the pains went away. All of a sudden, my pace got faster. And actually, my last mile was the fastest mile of the day. I clocked in at like 8:15 or 8:20. I just knew what was coming. I could hear the crowd. I knew the corral going into the finish line was there. And, I had some tears coming up, so much emotion of all of the training I did, all that I overcame, all that I dedicated to, the people that followed me, the people that reached out to me, like all of that at one moment just like hit me as I knew I was coming into this corral. It's these races are emotional for me. They're exciting, they're inspiring, and they're emotional. And I feel that. I allow myself to feel that. And so, yeah, we come into the corral, and I really can't put into words the corral. Like, it's this huge chute. The Ironman logo's on the ground. They have the big leaderboard or the scoreboard, time board, and all the crowds there waiting to accept you. And my family's there taking videos and cheering. They got bells, and you just feel like an all-star. It's just crazy. People are cheering you in, and I'm just flying in. And I did not do so. They have a finisher bell for first time Ironman finishers. And I consider myself an Ironman. I finished the race that was given to me. I'm an Ironman, but I'm saving the bell, the first timer bell, for when I do one with a swim. That's important to me. That's a decision that I made. So I did not do the finisher bell. I don't think I'm not an Ironman. And I don't think people should or shouldn't have. That is your decision. I just wanted to save that moment for when I do the swim, the bike, and the run. So I did not do the finisher bell, and then I crossed the finish line, and I did a little hop coming in, coming in for the finisher, and I got my medal. Let's see if we can get it into I can't get it into focus, but beautiful finisher medal this year, 10-year anniversary. There was an artist that actually did this from Chattanooga that designed this beautiful medal, and man, things money can't buy. So as far as time goes, I came in at 9 hours, 31 minutes, and 51 seconds. My marathon ended up being 4 hours and 3 minutes. I missed that 4 hours by 3 minutes. Not upset about it. Honestly, with all the pee breaks, I would have broken the 4 hours. So I'm happy about it. I think there was some room there, having fallen off so bad, or, it's fallen off at the end. I need to rethink strategy going in of the bike and the run. I think a lot came down to physical endurance or muscular endurance and muscular strength. Like I said, my cardiovascular was fine the whole day. My heart rate was in range. My heart rate was great, but it was the physical endurance. It was the muscular endurance and the muscular strength that really held me back. So I'm hitting it hard this winter to really work on those weak areas so I can come back and put up better times for next year. But crossing that finish line, man, they give you the hat, the emotions hit, the family's there, and I ended up going to dinner afterwards. It was beautiful. I had a really great steak dinner. And I ended up going back to the village. So I went into the app and it showed me as a DNF, did not finish. My time wasn't showing up. So I'm like, what is going on? Why do I have a DNF? So I went and they brought me into the back area, and someone had a did not finish, but they put my bib number in by mistake. So they fixed that mistake. And then I'm down at the finishers area, and I ended up staying there for like 3 hours. Just think about it. Like, I couldn't leave because of how amazing it was to just watch other people finish. People walking in, like barely able to walk, people running, people crying, couples running together, older, younger, physically challenged. I could have stayed there all night. I ended up staying for like 3 hours. I was done by like 6:30. I think I went back down there at 8 and stayed till like 11. So that was nice though, to be done at 6:30. Some people, they got headlamps on, they're finishing. I think the last finisher finished like 12:30 at night. So like, oh man, it felt good to be done with the race and to be able to go back down and support other people. But that's what this community is about. You get done with the race, you're tired, you just race an incredibly long and challenging race, yet you want to stand on your feet and clap and ring cowbells and be there to support other people doing such a massive thing. Like, that's what this is all about. It's so incredible. It's so amazing. And that's how I spent that night afterwards. And honestly, I felt great. A testament to my training, a testament to my strength and mobility work, a testament to my nutrition. I will tell you, my first marathon ever was 10 years ago, 2014. I couldn't walk for like a week. Like, I was in shambles, and I ran a 4-hour, 50-minute marathon. I was in way better shape after this race than most of my other races. And as I mentioned, I ran a personal my best marathon ever is 4 hours and 29 minutes, I think it was, before this race. I did almost 26 minutes faster after a 112-mile bike. So all that to say, I don't want to take anything away from myself. It's a testament to the work I put in. I have dedicated the training, the knowledge, the nutrition, the support systems. Like, it wasn't easy, but I'm not special. I just am an ordinary person who did the extra and was able to achieve something extraordinary. And that's what I want to continue to impose upon people. There's no difference between me and the next person that wants to do this. Yes, we have different genetic predispositions, different starting points, but my starting point was an overweight alcoholic about 6 years ago, to the point to where I am now, where I haven't even had any alcohol this year because I didn't feel it aligned with the goals and visions of the year. So something I chose not to do from, having relied on that at one point in my life. I was able to refocus my priorities in life, and this was the results I was able to get. And again, it was no magic sauce. It was training really hard, being dedicated to the process, being focused in the process, having a support system around me, and prioritizing my time and my life in a manner that all supported this one goal. It's simple, but it's not easy. I ended up reaching out to a person that came fourth in my age group. I met him on Facebook. I saw he came in fourth place or fifth place, I think. So I'm like, oh man, that guy is where I want to be. Let me reach out to him. And I had a beautiful conversation, and I got the same from him. Like, hey, like, would you give any advice to your prior self or to me as someone who wants to be an age group competitor? He's like, hey man, it's in the mind. Do the training, put in the work, be honest with yourself. Don't lie to yourself. Show up as best you can, and the results will come. And the same goes for you. And it doesn't mean you need to do an Ironman or try to be an age group contender. Like, that's my goal. It doesn't have to be your goal. Just know whatever goal it is, it's simple. You just have to stay committed to the process. You have to be disciplined. You have to be consistent, not perfect, right? No perfectionism, but be consistent and have a support system around you that fosters your priorities, your goals, and then go and get after it. That's how I got this. I am beyond thrilled to want to get 10 hours and to shave a half hour off of that. My first full distance event, not having the power meter on the bike, learning this process, coaching myself through it. Like, I couldn't be more thrilled. I am proud of myself. I'm excited. I am happy. And I earned it. I definitely earned it. That being said, I have more to do. I'm happy and I'm proud. I'm excited where I'm at. But as I mentioned, I see this race as a testament to the start of my career. And I want to be competing age group moving into the following years. Maybe not be next year. This is patience, right? I have to understand the body takes time to adapt. I'm going to really appreciate that. But all I could do is get faster each year. And that's what I'm aiming to do. So I'm excited to start here. This race was amazing. So many challenges. I'm grateful for those challenges, because challenges are going to come up. Life is not going to be easy, but how we approach them, how we navigate them, that's where the gold is. And that's what this process taught me: how to navigate those challenges, how to be bigger than the challenges, and how to be bigger than yourself. This was my journey. This was my race day. I hope you all enjoyed this. I am so grateful for all of this process and definitely so much more to come. So I appreciate you following the journey, listening to my race day, and yeah, definitely a lot more content and things to come, as far as my own coaching and the ways that I'm supporting the community. I'm going to be going through a lot of really great partnership things with Ironman to go through their Ironman University. Just started on the TriDot platform to help support other triathletes. So I'm full in. I'm full in on this. I have caught the bug and I couldn't be happier about it. So thank you for being a part of this journey, and stay tuned for a lot more to come. And as always, if you're an endurance athlete, a runner, a triathlete, or you're curious about it, send me a message, comment below. I would love to chat and answer any questions that you may have and help you create the possible out of something that seemed impossible before.